Penguin Random House Audio presents The Swallows by Lisa Lutz. Read for you by Abby Elliott, Lisa Flanagan, Ari Fliakos, and Michael Crouch, with Johnny Heller.
Part 1. In the Dark. Now this is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end. But it is perhaps the end of the beginning. Winston Churchill. Ms. Witt. Some teachers have a calling. I'm not one of them. I don't hate teaching. I don't love it either. That's also my general stance on adolescence. I understand that one day they'll rule the world and we'll all have to live with the consequences. But there's only so much I'm willing to do to mitigate that outcome. You'll never catch me leaping atop my desk, quoting Browning, Shakespeare, or Jay-Z. I don't offer my students sage advice or hard-won wisdom. I don't dive into the weeds of their personal lives, parsing the muck of their hormone-addled brains. And I sure as hell never learned as much from them as they did from me. It's just a job, like any other. It has a litany of downsides, starting with money and ending with money, and a host of other drawbacks in between. There are a few perks. I like having summers off. I like winter and spring breaks. I like not having a boss breathing over my shoulder. I like books and talking about books, and occasionally meeting a student who makes me see the world sideways. But I don't get attached. I don't get involved. That was the plan, at least. I came to Stonebridge Academy because it was the only place where I was sure of a no-questions-asked job offer. The Dean of Students, Gregory Stinson, is an old family friend. I don't know if he offered me the job knowing everything or nothing. Back then, Greg never spoke of unpleasant things. Why I wanted to give it another go is beyond me. It's not like I thought of teaching as my life's work. I doubt I'll ever have that. Maybe I just wanted to wrap up my career in education with a memory that didn't make my skin crawl. It was July 2009 when I first laid eyes on the campus. During my preliminary visit, Greg and I hammered out my contract in his musty old office, which overlooked 50 acres of dense woods. Under the thick brush of summer, I couldn't see the veins and arteries of the interconnected hiking and cross-country skiing trails that Stonebridge boasted of so proudly in its brochure. It seemed like too much space for 400 or so high school students. Despite the classic prep school architecture, cathedral buildings, everything stone, I had heard rumors about the lax academic environment. Warren prep kids had called Stonebridge students stoners. I considered that detail its most attractive quality. Greg was sure I was perfect for the libertarian style of his school, and his certainty compensated for my hesitation. We discussed my course schedule for the new year. I would teach 3 English literature classes and 1 American Lit. After that, Greg took me on a brief tour of the campus. His office and several classrooms were housed in an imposing stone structure that had no formal name. Later, I learned that the students called it headquarters. It was the only building on campus without a literary appellation. You know the game where you take your first pet's name and add the street you grew up on, and voila, there's your porn name? I think Stonebridge used a similar formula for naming their buildings and recreational grounds. Take the last name of a British or occasionally Irish poet or author and add house, manor, hall, field, commons, or square to it. The center of campus was Fleming Square. Students ate in Dahl Dining Hall. Tolkien Library and Samuel Beckett Gymnasium flanked Fielding Field. Across from headquarters, adjacent to Beckett Gym, was the headliner of the tour. The Oscar Wilde Bathhouse. We passed through double doors with a sign that read, "No students allowed, no exceptions." The marble compound, which housed a whirlpool tub, sauna, and steam showers, was apparently an extravagant gift from a former student. "If this doesn't seal the deal, I don't know what will," Greg said. I had a feeling that Greg was using the bathhouse as camouflage. I suggested he show me faculty housing. In silence, Greg led me across the square to a 4-story brick building. There was a heavy drizzle outside, which made everything look like it was on the other side of a cheap, transparent shower curtain. We strolled past Dickens' house, the boys' dormitory, and yes, they called it Dick House. Next to Dickens was a similar 4-story brick structure. The sign above the door read Wolf Hall. "Yes, after you," Greg said, opening the thick paneled door. "No thanks," I said, taking a step back. There was no point in entering the building. I would not live among them. That was a deal breaker, I explained. I thanked Greg for the tour and told him I had to be on my way. He told me I was being rash. I had driven 2 hours. The least I could do was take some time to think it over. Greg gave me a hand-rendered map of the school grounds, which I think he drew himself. Either way, it was not beholden to any concept of scale or structural accuracy. Greg walked me to the edge of Fielding Field and suggested I take some more time before I made a final decision. I come back to that moment again and again. So many lives would have taken a different course had I not gone for a walk in the woods. That walk changed everything. From Fleming Square, I followed George Elliott Trail past Evelyn Wall Way and continued for about a 1/4 mile, until I came upon a tiny stone cottage. It was at least 10 minutes' walk from Fleming Square, and at that time of year, surrounded by vibrant wildflowers. Cedar, pine, and maple trees towered over everything. A pond nearby rippled under the drizzle. It sounded so much better than that machine I'd bought to help me sleep. The perfection of it all I now see as a trick, not of nature, but of my own mind. I needed a sign, even a wink from the universe to believe that I was making the right decision. I ignored the fact that the foundation was cracked and some of those stones resembled Jenga pieces. When I looked for the cottage on the map, it wasn't there. For someone looking for a place to hide, that was as good a sign as any. I returned to Greg's office and told him I would take the job if I could live in the cabin with no name. He said the place wasn't habitable. He mentioned the absence of a shower. I reminded him of the bathhouse. He continued to resist. I told him those were my terms, take it or leave it. Greg reluctantly agreed. I returned to campus on Labor Day, after dark. Classes were to begin the next morning. I picked up the key to the cottage from the guard at the security gate and followed the blue ink on my annotated map. A muddy fire lane took me just shy of 20 yards from my new front door. Inside the cabin, I stood on the cold stone floor and wondered what the hell I was thinking. I was struck by a fresh memory of the perils of dorm life and forced myself to feel at home. I wiped down the cabinets above the kitchen sink, which contained a sparse collection of dishware and an unopened bottle of bourbon. I pulled the bottle from the shelf and noticed a small square of folded paper attached to the neck. I unfolded the paper and read the note written in small block letters. "Welcome to Stonebridge. Be careful." I sat outside on a rickety chair and considered the message. Was it a warning or just a piece of advice? I drank half the bottle as I tried to decide. Then I crawled into bed and fell asleep. The next morning, regretting the booze, I washed up in the kitchen sink, mourned the absence of coffee, and dressed in the first shirt and pair of jeans I could find. I stumbled through the woods to headquarters and entered Agatha Christie Admin, a.k.a. AA. Ms. Pinsky, the school secretary, handed me an envelope that contained my class schedule for the semester. Witt, Alex, Fall 2009. Instructor schedule. Period 1, 8 a.m. to 9:10 a.m. Course, CRWA 400, Advanced Creative Writing, Room 203. Period 2, 9:20 to 10:30 a.m. CRW 100, Creative Writing Elective, Room 203. Period 3, 10:40 to 11:50 a.m. Phys Ed 501 Fencing Intro, Gym. 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Lunch. Period 4, 1 o'clock to 2:10 p.m. Office hours. Period 5, 2:20 to 3:30 p.m. CRWAW 410 Advanced Creative Writing Workshop, Room 203.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?